So some viewers might find some of the images in this report distressing. Gaza City just before dawn. Whatever Israel defines as a target, it says it's now hit almost 900 here in 4 days. Israeli military video shows the Prime Minister's office destined for destruction. Nobody was there. With the sound of Israeli drones overhead and the smouldering ruins, this was where Hamas officials met the Egyptian Prime Minister just yesterday. And today they wanted to meet Tunisian officials in the same place. That is not going to happen. Phase 2, the Israelis said, was all about destroying Hamas official offices. It's well underway. You don't stay in any one place very long in Gaza. When you move fast through largely deserted streets. The smoke of the latest incoming attacks clearly visible. Early this morning, rescuers in the debris of 3 family homes destroyed in the densely populated al-Jaabari district of Gaza City. Next come the children, scavenging for wire and metal to sell on. And then suddenly, 18-year-old Zakaria Salah wanders, dazed, over what was home just 4 hours ago.
We were sitting at home when it was hit. I lost consciousness. I woke up in hospital.
His father, a senior Hamas official, wasn't there. At least 30 people were in these houses and were injured, 5 of them small children. Like 2-year-old Lama, who had come to the house with her mum Fatma for a sleepover.
I said, I'm okay, but I've got to check on my family and daughter. So I got into the ambulance and they brought me my daughter. She was covered in blood, but alive. I said, thank God.
2 floors down, the 12-bed intensive care unit is certainly coping, but it's full.
As you see, the case is coming and coming and coming.
Feet away, they fight to preserve life.
We receive 2 patient, infant patient, 11 months, burn, total burn 95%, and is still breathing.
Burns.
Yeah, still breathing, and within 1 hour it's died. And you can imagine, how do you feel? How do you feel? I take him and I cried.
Outside the scrum as Tunisia's foreign minister tours the hospital, condemning the Israeli onslaught, but silent on the Hamas rockets. Hamas released video today claiming to be their units attacking Israel, and we certainly saw the trails of outgoing rockets here today. Hamas officials on the streets today heard an Israeli jet, looked up anxiously, and then declared victory.
From here, amidst the rubble, we tell the Palestinian people, the Islamic and Arab nation, we are here to flash the victory sign. We are here to declare victory.
But whoever claims victory here, Gaza's health minister, who's also a surgeon, had the latest statistics this morning.
We have 39 people killed, most of them civilians, and we have about 370 people wounded.
Figures which translate into this: another Gazan mother praying for another Gazan son. God help us, she whispers. Please keep him alive. Well, while Gaza was being powered in, as we've reported, 2 rockets fired by Hamas into Israel, heading towards Tel Aviv. Both were swatted out of the sky by what Israel calls its Iron Dome missile protection scheme. Meanwhile, our reporter on that side of the fence, literally and figuratively, Inigo Gilmore, travelled south to take a look at the massive build-up of military materiel around Gaza on the ground.
Close to the Gaza border, Israeli forces are gathering. We still don't know if this will turn into a ground invasion, but preparations are certainly underway. Today, the Israeli military closed off much of this area. We saw tank after tank rolling in. We managed to get to Kibbutz Be'eri, just 2 miles from the Gaza Strip. The sound of a rocket exploding nearby.
You see, you hear?
Yes.
What's happened?
It fell.
It's done. Don't worry.
They're used to this here. The head of the kibbutz took us to the roof so we could see where the rocket landed.
So that was a missile coming from Gaza?
Missile coming from Gaza, went to Netivot, got caught by Iron Dome.
Iron Dome, that's the explosion we
That's
heard.
the explosion that you heard. And that's it. This is
So
the
this is back
routine, back and forth, routine situation.
You're used to it by the looks of things.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago, they finished installing bomb shelters in this border kibbutz at a cost of £10 million.
You see, this is a special door, very heavy door.
Yaniv Gelbard showed me his safe room. His 2 young daughters now sleep here because they only have 15 seconds warning of rocket attacks.
Because these very hard days and very scared days, she decides to come here and to sleep near her sister.
These pictures are very different from what you see from Gaza. But for these Israelis living in the range of the rockets, their fear is genuine.
Went into the sea, went into the sea.
In Tel Aviv this evening, the wail of sirens across the city announcing an incoming rocket. It appears these missiles fired from an Israeli defense system may have taken out the rocket. This is Israel's much heralded Iron Dome, deployed today in Tel Aviv for the first time. Israel says its bombardment of Gaza is to stop these rocket attacks, but 4 days on, they've still not extinguished the threat. Inigo Gilmore, Channel 4 News, Tel Aviv.
Now, it's being claimed that the Israeli assassination of Hamas's military leader, Ahmed al-Jaabari, which triggered the latest clashes, thwarted moves towards a wider ceasefire. The man behind the claims is Gershon Baskin, an Israeli peace campaigner. And I asked him earlier what he thought Jaabari really wanted.
I know that he wanted a ceasefire. That I know. The proposed mechanism is something that's been presented to him before for months already, and the indications were that there were enough people of pragmatism within the Hamas leadership who were willing to take a chance and go down this route. The original proposal was talking about a 1-year deal to be evaluated and renewed. In knowing that there was sensitivity and a lack of trust, we had proposed a 3 to 6 month deal at this point for it to be evaluated as we go on and then to review it and decide if whether or not to extend it. And of course, that's bilateral. Both sides would have to agree.
And who in the Israeli government knew that this process was going on and what the deal on offer was?
I presented the document months ago to Ehud Barak, the Minister of Defense, who created a committee that involved people from the Army and his Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Prime Minister's office, and the other security services. And they evaluated it and decided not to decide. In the end, the prevailing voice within the security establishment in Israel is that we don't need to make agreements with Hamas. We need to create deterrence, which is what we're doing now. Now, Jaabari was selected as a target, if you ask me, not because of this potential agreement, but because this is the kind of deterrence that Israel wanted. If Israel could kill Jaabari, the head of the military forces of Hamas, then every Hamas leader has to know that they could get any single one of them. This was symbolic.
What do you believe will happen if Israel invades on the ground?
First of all, I think that the Hamas wants Israel to invade. They have not had any significant military achievements other than being able to say we fired rockets at Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, which were shot down by Israeli defensive rockets. Killing 3 Israeli civilians is not something that they can say, okay, we achieved something and now we can go to a ceasefire. So I think that Hamas very much wants the Israelis to invade. They want to kill Israeli soldiers. They want to have an opportunity to blow up Israeli tanks.
A lot of your negotiation has been through Egypt. Can you tell us how that has changed with the new Egyptian leadership?
It hasn't changed because the people who were conducting the negotiations before were from the General Intelligence Agency of Egypt. Those people have more or less remained the same. Their contacts both inside of Israel and inside of Gaza have remained the same. And perhaps because the Muslim Brotherhood and its leader, Dr. Mohammed Morsi, don't want to have any direct contact with Israel, it's perfectly fine for them, for the people who have been conducting the relations, for mitigating the problems, for dealing with the issue of Sinai and Gaza, Gaza continue to do it, and they do it very successfully. They have a great deal of respect on the Israeli side and on the Palestinian side. I'm afraid, though, that this killing of Jaabari damaged their ability to work on the Hamas side. I know there are people in Hamas who suspect that the Egyptian intelligence collaborated with Israel in the assassination of Jaabari.
Gershon Baskin, the Israeli peace campaigner. Well, in Egypt, more than 50 nursery school children have been killed when a train ploughed into a bus